There is something to be said about the power of defiance. To stare down something that wishes for little more than your destruction, and say no. To plant your feet into the ground and stop them in their tracks. While many people embody such words, few do so more than the heroes and champions of the Valkyrian lands. The famed Stormraisers. In truth, they don't even have a name for their group, as the term Stormraiser is given to them by the Scald people for a very clear reason. It is unknown how, but many champions of this land have the ability to control lightning. This art has always been known to the Valkyrian people, to the point where some think it might be a genetic thing. But then again, no one truly knows. What is known is their reputation for being stalwart defenders of the Valkyrian lands against their stronger foes, those who wish to conquer them, mostly being the Skeld and the Jarlentyr, as they seek to conquer their homeland and are the most powerful of their neighbours. This is why Defiance is so true to their name. It is reasons like this that they are becoming a dying breed. The amount of Valkyrian people who are truly free is shrinking every day. And yet, here they stand, remaining ever defiant, staring into the eyes of those who wish to take their lands and their lives, and spitting in their faces. You would be foolish to think they are mere brutes, however. Well, these small tribal people are far from a civilized society, but they are no brutal savages despite their appearance. While, yes, they are known for their raiders, most in this continent do raid, including the Skeld at times. It's very much a local cultural thing that most people in this continent take a part of. They are no exception in this regard. But in truth, they very much do things like this in response to those attacking them. The Stormraisers are very much the guardians of these lands, protecting the small number of people within them against foreign invaders, and raiding to gain supplies to feed and clothe their people. In fact, I want to quickly hammer this point in for a moment about how small their population actually is. See, their people live in small tribes atop mountain villages, where you can see the whole thing from one rooftop. Every one of the 5 or so households know each other by name, and are considered friends and family. Each household, upon their many long huts, will have 1 to 3 Stormraisers that fight in the name of their family and village, making these people fiercely patriotic, as all of their countrymen are in fact family and friends. This is something that very much sets them apart from most other warriors. It's their bond with their battle brothers. See, if most other Dragoneers lose a comrade in battle, they will mourn their loss after the battle and view their death as a tragic sacrifice, with some of the more personal ones taking grave sorrow. But a Stormraiser, upon seeing the sight of a fallen battle brother in battle, will fly into a rage and fell true anguish, attacking those who slew their brother. But not all villages and tribes are on good terms, so sadly even a group this few in number will attack each other for all sorts of reasons. But because of their people's bond and culture, this is a lot less likely to actually result in any deaths, as a side will openly admit when they are defeated and will hand over whatever the opposition wanted. They do not hold grudges against their own kin. They instead save those grudges for their true, genuine foes. See, these people hold a grudge against all of their enemies, but of recent they've held a special hatred for that of the Skeld. See, our last queen, Warder, the one before our current one, was by no uncertain means a tyrant. And after losing some land to the Jarlentyr, in a war she started, I might add, she decided to expand into the Valkyrian range to make up for these losses. When there, she committed many atrocities, including genocide, to many of the tribes and villages. Shortly after these monstrous events, she went missing. No doubt the tyrant-hating royal mount Aelion had a hand in this, and something I'm very glad he did. Oh, but between you and me, you didn't hear that off me, got it? And this, sadly, is only the most recent act the Skald have committed against them. Combined with the things the Jarlantir have also done, the history of the Valkyrian people is filled with oppression and subjugation. Perhaps this is why their guardians have been more active of late, and are stepping a foot forward. The time is nigh for retaliation and freedom. They are seen as primitive by most, and in truth they are a lot less technologically advanced in most regards. They are usually the last to learn most technologies and way of things, such as dragoneering. In fact, dragons have been a pest for most of their history, and they've only recently learned how to tame the local dragons of their land. But they have beat them into submission, and now ride them. Most Stormraisers ride a local genus known as the stone snouts, a brutish and monstrous species of dragon that are like the Stormraisers themselves, as they are very solitary, and are kind of like the rhinos of dragonkind, if that makes sense. But they respect those who beat them, another thing they have in common with the Stormraisers, so taming them is actually not too hard when you're strong. I'm sure all of the tribes and villages have different customs on how they acquire said dragons, but I'm sure there's a coming-of-age ritual for most, where young Stormraisers, possibly helped or maybe just overseen by the older ones, have to go out into the wild and find and subjugate a stone snout into being their mount. No doubt a perilous event, but I'm sure their comrades would step in should the young one fail, as their numbers are needed, and they will not sacrifice their own just for the sake of a tradition. You wouldn't expect it given their appearance, but they are very protective of their king, caring for the old and sick with loving nature that their foes would be surprised to see in them, I'm sure. But take my advice and befriend a Stormraiser if you ever come across them. But by all means, do not antagonize them or hurt their kin. See, revenge against the foreigner is a virtue to them. If you kill their brother, they will burn down your lands, slaughter your family, and salt the earth you lived on, and still think there is more recompense to be done. I have personally seen a Stormraiser trying to avenge the death of his own father by the hands of a Windguard captain. I witnessed first-hand as he slew an entire squad of 10 men and women in a fit of rage. At first I thought he was attacking them as a suicide mission, but there was a look in his eyes. He had no intention of dying, and he cut through them and their dragons, one after the other, the snarling of his stone snout as it pierced the chest of their iron wings, and his axe chopping off heads one after the other. Let me tell you, there is little sight scarier than, as you as a young teenage boy, seeing a burly man almost twice your size choking out and suffocating a dragon to death with his bare hands, only to drop it and stare at you with lightning shooting from his very eyes. I'm sure he could tell I was not with them, or maybe I was just too young for him to know I was a threat, so I think that's why he spared me. But in truth, that squad was actually my escort, and he took all of their things, as well as my things, and even their armor. So, I was left alone in the wilderness with no surprise. No doubt he thought I would die there, and in truth, I'm very lucky I didn't. Mind you, I have also seen their positive side. During my later travels, when I was a bit more organized and had a dragon of my own, I was invited to help a tribe of Valkyrians, along with my adventuring companions. We stayed overnight at a small village, where they only had 5 Stormraisers protecting it, and I never even met one of them, and the other left as soon as we arrived. But they stood towering over us, trying, and very much succeeding, to intimidate us. But by the end of the night, we were drinking and laughing together, sharing stories, and having a wonderful time, I might add. One of them even joined us in our adventures for a while. Actually, I got so drunk that night that I actually got a Valkyrian tattoo. I don't regret it, as it was quite the experience, but I'm glad I wear long sleeves, let me put it that way. But mind you, getting their allegiance isn't just something you can buy over with coin. You need moments like that, of bonding with them, to have true allegiances. Of course, some will fight for coin, as it's always needed, but the idea of them fighting because you're going to help their tribal village appeals to them more. Helping their friends and family will get you more rewards than just coin. They are the guardians of their people through and through, and in this regard they can be quite selfless, and are very willing to sacrifice themselves for their kin, something in which their battle brothers will try to take revenge on. It's quite the deterrence from those who wish to take over their land, and in my opinion, it is very sad that they are a dying breed and culture. I'm quite the proud Skald, but our history with the Valkyrians is something I am deeply ashamed of. I do hope our peoples can put our history behind us, but given the Skald's continued ambitions, and the Valkyrians' tendency to hold grudges, it's going to take a major event to make us put it aside, if at all possible. Perhaps sometimes you are just fated to fight those that you have a great amount of respect for. And if you are to take any advice from this little talk, is that you should not piss off a Stormraiser. Align with them if you can, and flee them if you can't. But in truth, you have very little to worry about if you do not intend to harm the Valkyrian people. But if you do, woe to those who would face the guardians of these people. Thank you for listening to my tales. I am the Ashspawn. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But, till next we meet, fellow traveller, have a good day.